Time for a Netflix movie review. This time we're going to be talking about the movie Leave the World Behind. Clay and Amanda trying to go for vacation vibes in a house that they basically rented for a given time. But George and Ruth, which is his daughter, the owners of the house, have to come in because of a situation happening. The plot is about this worldwide hack, basically. And I say worldwide, but it focuses on the US for sure. So at the same time, they're really not aware of what is happening. But in my overall opinion, I like this movie. I think it's a good movie. I think it could have been great if there was an entity that you could have focused on, that you could have been aware this is the person or this is the group that is doing this. I think leaving it as the plot being unaware of everybody being left behind was a good idea, but at the same time not having a entity that you could see personally for me was what did not make it a great movie, but it was a good movie. I did like this movie. And I did like the part where the Teslas are basically Julia Roberts did a great job here trying to showcase that scene, the moment of shock when she's realizing, oh shit, this whole hack that happens, they're hacking the US basically, is what's forcing these Teslas to crash by themselves because of the autonomous self-driving feature. So as she's right there trying to drive, trying to overall help her child, her kid, her son, which at a given point he gets bit by something, and they try to allude to the fact that his teeth are falling off because of this. But some people think it's because of these crazy sounds that are just very hard sounds, sonic booms that just keep happening around them. And some people get affected by that, like in real life. I think it happened in Cuba. So her son's teeth are falling off and they have to go and try to help him go to the hospital. The whole street is just full of cars that are just stagnant. Everything is just unavailable. They're left behind, literally. And these Tesla cars, they got hacked. The autonomous self-driving features just them driving by themselves and crashing. But they're not aware of that at first because they just see these Teslas being still and crashed. But once she's right there trying to pass by them, she starts to see another Tesla driving fast. And there's nobody there. So the feature is them just keep driving, crashing. They have to avoid these Teslas. She's driving in reverse, then and forward, trying to dodge them. And she tells Clay to get in the car, trying to avoid everything and not get hit. And boom, that Tesla crashes. Then another one crashes. Boom. And then she's like, oh shit. She's trying to just do her best. I thought that was one of my favorite scenes from the movie. I like the plot of George and Ruth. Usually, somebody else on another review pointed this. Usually, the black family, they try to put it as they're the ones going on vacation to rent this house. And the white people are the owners. I noticed this reverse or inverse overall dynamics on a lot of things on this movie. How the black family they are the overall owners of the house, and the white family is the one going on vacation. They're not the owners this time. Very interesting to see that change in dynamic given how Amanda responded to it. She's more aggressive and more right out the gate, trying to avoid what she feels is a strange situation when she sees two people in the middle of the night trying to say this is their house. Mind you, she's aware of the name of the person that she rented the house for. And it is George, and he says GH, right? So she's still skeptic, but at the same time, they let them in. Clay is more overall calm about the situation, saying, yeah, sure, come in. He genuinely believes they're telling the truth. And he manages to open one of the cabinets and even offer money, 1K, for the whole situation of them having to stay there because I keep forgetting the plot build because of the overall situation with the hacking. Like a blackout, basically, where the power is being damaged. They had no signal, no internet signal on the phones. They couldn't use technology for a moment. That was the first part of it. So it's interesting to see that dynamic. At the same time, a lot of people in other reviews, I noticed they were talking about how usually they try to put the male counterpart, which in this case is Clay, to be the one who's dominant in that aspect and say, nah, we're not letting you in. It's the middle of the night. We don't even know if you're actually telling the truth. And we don't even have a way to confirm because we don't have the technology, the phone available for us right now. Everything is off. But in this case, he's the one who's not thinking like that. He's more calm about it. And the woman is Amanda, the one that's putting in that role. So I had no idea this. Somebody else mentioned this, but apparently he was wearing a shirt that was a quote unquote group that they labeled themselves as feminists, something like that. So it seems more and more intentional, the inverse dynamic of what is usually what happens or something like that. I had no idea about that. I didn't really pay attention to that. But I think it's something interesting to note, like the little hidden messages of how this director and how this movie is being showing a message of portraying this inverse dynamics, especially like I said, with the house being owned by the black family and the white family is the one renting. So regardless of if you believe in these ideologies of a feminist ideology or not, I personally don't call myself that, but I'm just saying I think it's interesting for the person that directed the movie how they added these elements. That's my overall opinion of it, right? So I thought the movie was good. I just thought that in terms of an entity being shown that is doing this, I thought it could have been what made it great instead of just leaving it at good. Then they have to try to help again the son because Clay's son, his teeth is falling out. They have to go through these sounds and through the bite that Clay's son had to go through. Rose is noticing these deers that just keep moving for some reason weirdly, and the animals are kind of not behaving as usual the way they're migrating. But nobody's paying attention to her. Nobody's paying attention to her. They just keep ignoring her this whole time. And it's interesting how usually they say on these type of sayings, the answer is right in your face, but you're ignoring it. Rose, they show that they care about her to try to figure out where she's at when she gets lost and all of that, but they never paid attention to what she was saying really, because at the end she's the one that has the answer of what's happening. She noticed all of this first. Her brother doesn't really pay attention to her. He cares about her, but at the same time, not enough to the reason to the point that Rose is really just excited for the last episode of Friends, the series. So she's actually just wanting to see the last episode and she can't because all the technology shot off completely. So that was an interesting point. The answer is right in your face and you're ignoring the person that has the answer. As she's looking at the house that's available, that probably has the technology that we figure out at the end really does have one in a basement. The interesting part is the dynamics between Ruth and Amanda. It's like they're going back at each other, fighting. One is more aggressive, the other one is more sarcastic. The other one is trying to figure out what's happening to her mother on the airplane. In this case, Ruth. She's worried and telling George, her father, I don't think I'm going to see my mother again. At the same time, then you have overall Amanda saying, I don't think I'm going to see my daughter again. So it's an inverse dynamic yet again where Amanda's lost her daughter. She can't see where she is because she ignored her basically, even though she's worried at the same time. And Ruth is worried about her mother and daughter, but one is where the daughter's worried about her mother, the other is where the mother's worried about her daughter. Ruth, her mother, Amanda, Rose. You see what what happens there. So again, another inverse dynamic as they're fighting, and they realize that at the end where they're around that cabin and the deer surround them, that at this point they just have each other as they're holding hands, and the bombs, there's like so many explosions happening in New York City. And at the same time, you start to notice it's not really from anybody outside, it's within, which was the whole plot that George was talking about with Amanda. It's a civil war. They're going at each other, and the people that hacked managed to get everybody to go against each other. That's what happened when the guy who was going to give Kevin Bacon, the actor, was going to give medicine to Clay's son with George. George and Kevin Bacon are just about to shoot each other. And even Ruth, the daughter of George, says, "You're going to get yourself killed going over there. We should stay with each other." But he's more worried about helping this white son instead of staying with his daughter in that situation, and they just go over there. Overall, it's interesting to see that again. They just, boom, they pull the guns out. George pulling the gun out against the Kevin Bacon actor, I forgot his name, on the movie. He's in the front porch. You know that dynamic right there. It looks like that video where this white family once pulled some guns on some. What happened? I think it was a situation where black protests happened and the white people would just out of nowhere pull the guns, and this whole feud started happening. It reminded me of that. Also, the misinformation situation where Clay is driving. He even forgets about the woman that's out of nowhere asking for help because he doesn't understand the language. She's a Latino right there that's just confused, and she keeps talking in Spanish. Help me, but he just doesn't even know what to do and ignores her. These papers start falling. He thinks it's blood at first, and then realizes that it's some Arabic text. I think it said "Death to America," something like that. That's what they pointed out. Then the other actor that was in a porch about to shoot George when they went for the medicine said his friend, who's a veteran, an army person, told him that it was the Koreans and the Chinese. So you have somebody saying the Arabs, then the Chinese, then the Koreans. So they don't really know what is going on. They just keep getting misinformed, which happens a lot nowadays. Interesting how to see all these dynamics. I thought it was a good movie. I think the best part is when George is telling Amanda, which, by the way, I thought that dynamic was crazy. How you just gonna go with George over there to get to the music? They go to it's not a basement, but they go to downstairs or something for the music, and they start playing music, and she starts dancing awkwardly, which was just weird. But I thought the better part was when they were sitting upstairs and George tells them everybody thinks it's these evil people at the top that are in control of everything. And the worst part is when, did he say the cabal or something like that? And that the worst part is when they have all the control and they manipulate you and control you. But the worst is when nobody's in control, when they've left and they've basically leave the world behind because they know beforehand what you are not aware of. And they're prepared to avoid the situation while you suffer, and everybody starts killing each other, essentially a civil war. That was the plan that he tells Clay in the car. So again, everybody thinks, these higher ups that control the world, the evil people, which is true. But what's even worse is when they're not there and they leave you stranded because they are more aware of what's happening. Essentially what he was saying, but he said it in a better way, of course. The script is written better than me just going by memory. But let me know overall your thoughts. I thought it was a good movie, but not a great movie because of the entity aspect. I wanted to see something. Maybe you could have added aliens or something. We needed to see something like a person that was, or the group. I'm not out. I just remembered something. Remembered the ending. I got to talk about the ending. So the ending happens where Rose, after being ignored this whole time, she finally goes to the home that she was looking at when she went in search with her brother. She's the only one that goes to the home at that point in time. If you notice, she starts eating everything because she hasn't eaten this whole time. So she just starts stuffing herself with food, chips. There's some Sour Patches, I think. She starts drinking juice, everything right there at the table. Everything is like a dark color. I think it was a blue or red. No, I think it was red. and then it changes up to blue. They use that color dynamic too a lot. But the whole point is it's dark right there. She's eating stuffing with juice and everything is at the same time. And then she notices this other light right here that takes her down. As she's about to go down, I did not hear this, but somebody else in another review said that Amanda, her mother, actually calls her Rose. So she, mind you, Amanda's holding with Ruth both hands as they see the explosion. So eventually they do see the house, which is over there to the other side, at the right side of them. And she probably, that's why she calls her and says, Rose. She's actually trying to scream to her like, Rose, Rose. You kind of hear it faintly. That's what the review of the other people said. Shout out to them. Frames per second. I did not hear that. So I should look back at the movie and see if I do hear the mother Amanda saying, Rose, Rose. Like trying to scream at her or trying to get to her basically. I should hear to see what the tone is. But apparently she does. So that lets you know that eventually Rose correctly leads everybody to that place, to that house where there's better food, technology. Of course, she stuffed herself with the food, so I'm not even sure if there's more food. Actually, there is downstairs in the basement part, which is interesting, the food that they put. I'll speak on that. So the fact is, eventually, Amanda and Ruth are going to get there, and the other people will get there from the family, Clay and George as well, if everything is safe, because Rose led them to there. So Rose goes downstairs. She opens a very fancy, tough door. Overall sophisticated. I'm not going to say fancy. It's sophisticated enough to be secure is what I'm saying. She enters and she starts to see all these DVDs and everything available. And she notices Friends is right there. At the time that she's noticing the DVDs, a screen pops up that actually says there's this alert of something of a attack against the U.S., a hack, being safety, and the whole concern of the Civil War thing that I was talking about. It alerts it on the screen, and if you notice, the food where she passes downstairs, there's a lot of food that is old stored because the Aunt Jemima syrup has the old logo. The pancakes, they have the old logo, not the new one where they removed Aunt Jemima. So that's interesting because it shows you some other old food as well stored for a long time. It shows you that person has been preparing for a long time. What I got from that as well was that the person that owns that house is probably the friend that George was talking about this whole time, that it said my friend was aware of all of this and he was warning me about this and telling me how the worst part is when the people in control just leave and all that. So I'm thinking that's the guy, that was his house. That's my overall thoughts on it. I think it even said the name in the door, but I didn't even notice what was the name and if it aligns. But I think that's what happened. So Rose then that's a key point right there. Then Rose ignores the screens that have been warning about that. So that person probably knew because of the screens. My only issue is, why would he leave? Why would that person in the house leave? I'm not sure. Either way, Rose then just pops the DVD of Friends, the last season, the last episode, and finally smiles and is happy because she's seeing what feels like a nice and joyful overall moment of Friends, the ending. And that's how it ends. A lot of people had a controversial thoughts about the ending, but I think that was perfect. Especially once you know that Amanda did say Rose, so she's aware and she's going to the house too. You get closure in that type of sense. But that's going to be it. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that the food was that old in the sense that it had the old logos and everything, because it lets you know that this person was indeed preparing. And I think that was George's friend that was aware and was preparing this whole time because this is what's going to happen. Another thing, they offer $1,000 to the person from the porch, the guy who had a lot of medicine, to save Clay's son. But he actually says the money is useless at this point because there's no government. Very interesting to think, regardless of if you're in the capitalist side or the quote-unquote communist side or socialist side, whatever you want to call it. I'm not vouching for any side. At this point, I'm just noticing the interest and dynamic of the ideology and the economy of capitalism right there collapsing, as in those $1,000 of yours are worthless at this point in time. I don't really need them. Communion is more important. And ironically, the other side that's trying to use the capitalist approach to get the medicine for their side of the community, the family right here, can't do anything with the money because it's worthless at this point. So it's like that collapse of capitalism being useful at that given point, and community, quote unquote, socialism being what matters at that point. But of course, that's very surface level description from my part. Of course, you know that people actually make money in the other side as well when you own the productions, means of productions, and all of that. But you get what I mean. I'm not going to go very in detail into what is better and what not. I live in a capitalist society and I don't have a particular main issue with it. I prefer what's best available for me right now, but I'm aware that it has its problems too. So I just thought that was very interesting, regardless of what you think is better. But let me know what you thought about the movie. Now I'm concluding.